Hey guys, welcome back to Anthony's Tennis Hub. My name's Anthony Hirsch, and Carlos Alcaraz has beaten Sasha Zverev at Roland Garros. He becomes the youngest man to reach a final on all three surfaces and the youngest man to win a Grand Slam title on all three surfaces. All three of his Grand Slams coming at different tournaments. 1 year after he cramped late into Roland Garros in the semifinals against Djokovic, he gets it done against Sasha Zverev. He gets it done against Jannik Sinner in the semis and the final. Two of the top players in the world, two of the best players in the world on clay as well. And he gets it done from 2-1 down against both, finding his best tennis for the ends of those matches. I want to talk a little bit about the Roland Garros tournament that happened, and then we have the grass swing coming up as well. So I want to talk about where we are at this point in the season and kind of what's going on, and go over that men's final between Alcaraz and Zverev, which happened. Well, first of all, I felt like it was a bit of an up and down match from both. It wasn't the most high level I've ever seen, but I also disagreed with things, highly disagreed with people who were saying it was a terrible final, it was a bad final. I think it was somewhere in between. I thought it was a good, decent final. I just don't think that necessarily throughout the whole of the match, Alcaraz brought his best level. Even he admitted he was quite nervous playing in the final. He played a great opening set, and then second and third sets. I mean, that third set was a set that Alcaraz definitely should have won. He was up 5-2. The 5-3 service game he played was very nervy. He kept kind of coming to net even when I felt like he didn't need to. He choked it a little bit. He got nervous. So that wasn't great from Alcaraz, but there's some interesting things that happened throughout, and I felt like both players did some things well in the final, and Alcaraz, delivered his best tennis when it counted the most. But Alcaraz now 11-1 in 5 sets, which is crazy. 11 5-set wins, 1 loss. The 1 loss, by the way, being to Matteo Berrettini, when Alcaraz, I believe, had just turned 18 years old, and Berrettini was a top 6 seed. He reached the semifinals that year. Alcaraz came back from 2 sets love down and pushed that to a 5th set tiebreaker, almost cost an upset. So that's his 1 5-set loss. The guy plays different in 5 sets. Guy plays different in finals as well. Alcaraz is now 14-4 in finals, and he's a remarkable 84% win percentage at slams. The guy's 21 years old, just turned 21 last month. Generational talent. Absolutely is Alcaraz. And, absolutely phenomenal stuff. Here's some of the big things that happened in the final. Let me go over that first before I go over anything else and just get to the final. So some of the big things that happened in the final was I felt like the forehand-to-forehand exchanges and the differential between the quality of their forehands and finding ways to finish off the points was very different. Also, I felt like Alcaraz played much higher IQ and also higher IQ when it mattered and was able to execute very smart game plans. They did both kind of change strategically throughout the match. From the beginning of the match, Zverev was hoping to be dominating on backhand-to-backhand exchanges. That actually wasn't happening. Alcaraz was able to do really well when he was getting backhands. I mean, Alcaraz's backhand is so good, and he was able to have great placement with that backhand and, get Zverev out of position. He was surviving the backhand-to-backhand rallies. What I felt like Zverev really switched up, actually, was the fact that he started hitting it a lot more to the Alcaraz forehand, which actually started working a lot. And he was able to kind of break down Alcaraz's forehand a little bit. And that's actually the shot that Zverev likes to hit more, is kind of the forehand cross court. He likes to kind of rally all day with the forehand cross court. It was when he was going forehand down the line, which is often a weaker and less precise shot for Zverev, which can be a little bit more central and a little bit more attackable. That's when he was getting hurt by the Alcaraz backhand. So it was actually when Zverev started hitting much more to the forehand of Alcaraz that I felt like things started shifting a little bit. Then, like what I said in the third set, Alcaraz should have put it away, but then played a really weird set of tennis where he lost 5 consecutive games to lose the set. And then the last 2 sets, Alcaraz just played so aggressively at times. He just looked like the much more aggressive player. He was able to finish off the points much better with the forehand. Zverev became much more passive, especially with that forehand. In the last 2 sets, Alcaraz hit 15 forehand winners. Zverev just hit 5. forehand winners. And another thing that was really important in those last 2 sets is that Alcaraz was hitting these kind of high loopy shots, high loopy kind of moonball shots, even off the return of serve. And Zverev was having a lot of trouble handling those, and a lot of trouble on the +1 handling those as well. And oftentimes he'd even step around and hit a forehand, but then he's way out of position. That's just not something Zverev likes to do. So, I mean, he was having a lot of trouble handling those, and he was having to generate his own pace once he was getting those shots, and that's just something he was not able to do. He was playing very passively. Also, second serve, Alcaraz was so good at returning the second serve, like with those moon balls. Zverev won 12 out of 36 second serve points. Alcaraz broke even. He was like 50-50. That's pretty much what you want on second serve points. Zverev was well below 12 out of 36, and Alcaraz just played so aggressive. He found his best tennis in the last couple sets, playing very smart. He was also, to counteract the fact that he was hitting those high shots, he was also pulling Zverev into the net, and kind of like backhand slices cross-court, pulling Zverev in. And Zverev, I feel like he's improved at net, actually, in his comeback. I feel like this is one of the things he's improved at. Even last year at Roland Garros, I noticed it against Thomas Martin Echeverry in the quarterfinals. He was coming to the net a lot. He came into net over like 40-50 times in the match against Echeverry last year, and I felt like he won like 70-80% of those points. Zverev's net game has actually improved, but in the last couple sets, he did not bring his best level, and he was getting passed all the time by Alcaraz, who I think has one of the best and most versatile passing shots we've ever seen in the men's game, and I'd be willing to say that. So that's not a passing shot you want to come in on, especially when you're getting passed left and right by Carlos. So that's something I would say. And Alcaraz, to kind of contrast Sasha, brought his best level, just like he did against Jannik. I felt like against Jannik, Alcaraz played very scratchy for 3.5 sets. I saw Patrick Mouratoglou said that it was the worst match that Alcaraz had ever played up until the 4th and 5th sets. Don't agree with that. But I will say he was playing far from his best level. And then the 4th and 5th sets, he found his best level. Very similar thing here. 2-0, Alcaraz often needs kind of an kind of an amazing shot that electrifies the crowd. He got that incredible shot here. 1-0, break point, 4th set. He hits a banana shot a la Rafa Nadal, a shot that he would hit a lot of times when he would go on to win 14 of these. 1-0, break point, 4th set, down 2-1. He hit this incredible forehand passing shot and the crowd completely jumped up, got electrified. And I just felt like that was the moment. And I do feel like that was the moment. Alcaraz from then on was the far better player. And I feel like Alcaraz, what's so good for us is that Alcaraz hits those great shots in the moments where it counts the most, in the matches that it counts the most, in the stages of those matches where it counts the most. Alcaraz is so good under pressure and in the big moments. I think that's one of his best traits, if not his best traits. I think Alcaraz is he's very underrated in the mental department. Even if he doesn't win, he pulls out a set or two that you just don't expect him to. He's very strong mentally, and he learns very quickly. There's so many things about Alcaraz's mental game that excite me a lot. And I think that is a trait that is going to help him more than anything else. He's also wickedly talented, this is true. But he's also just such a quick learner, and he has a huge passion for the game. He wants to break records, and he's already breaking records by winning Wimbledon, Roland Garros, and US Open. By the time they just turned 21 years old. So anyway, those are some of the things I would say. Alcaraz hit some absolutely benign shots. He had this one-handed backhand passing shot at 5-2 in the 5th set, which was absolutely amazing. It's all over social media. Ball hits the net, puts his hands up to apologize, and turns it into a fist bump. Zverev turns it around, and he hit some great shots. And it was just, to be able to hit that in a Grand Slam final under pressure, a tournament you've dreamed about winning for years, and you're able to turn that into a reality while at the same time coming up with some of these crazy shots. It's so good for us, and it's so good for Alcaraz, because not only is he not, hitting horrible errors when he's down 2-0, when he's in a tiebreaker, when he's trying to save match points versus Djokovic, Cincinnati, or, saving the second set tiebreaker versus Djokovic at Wimbledon, or whatever it is. Those big moments where it counts the most, against Sinner in the semis here, and the fourth set being able to pull it out the way he did, or, countless moments like this. Not only is he not making terrible errors, he's hitting flashy, great, impressive winners. And that's just something that I think is going to serve him really well. Zverev, like I said, I think he could have done more, but in the 2 years ago, Zverev beat Alcaraz in 4 sets here. He won 58% of second serve points. Like I said here, it was 25%, 12 for 36. He also hit 7 winners less than he did in that match at Roland Garros 2 years ago. In that match, he hit 7 winners less in that match than Alcaraz did. Just 7 winners less. Zverev, not trying to be Alcaraz. He's not trying to hit as many winners as Alcaraz. Hitting 7 winners less than Alcaraz, that's fine. Here, he hit 14 winners less. Also there, Alcaraz hit 10 more unforced errors. Here, they hit exactly the same amount of unforced errors, 101 unforced errors, which is a lot, by the way. But here they hit 101. There, Alcaraz hit 10 more than Zverev did, while also hitting fewer winners than he did here. So those were some of the big stats that I felt like kind of show what the differentials were. And Alcaraz very smart and being able to handle the return of serve very, very well here. So I felt like those are some of the things that I wanted to mention the most. But like I was saying, 8-1 in big finals is Alcaraz now. 14-4 in finals, 8-1 in big finals. And the one that he lost was when he had championship point against Djokovic at Cincinnati. So, the guy shows up in finals. He said after the match ends, it's not about... Finals isn't about playing, it's about winning. And, that's just what we saw here. But how crazy is it also? I do want to bring this up. Last video I made, I was talking about how this could be the last week that a Big Four member, or the last week, could have been the last week that a Big Four member was in the top spot of the rankings. And if it is, how fitting is it that Jannik Sinner wins world number 1, Carlos Alcaraz wins a Grand Slam, and for the first time of what could be many, many weeks, Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz, what some of us have been waiting for, the top 2 spots in the rankings. Jannik Sinner number 1, Alcaraz number 2, but Alcaraz having just won the French Open. If this is the last week that the Big Four are at the top, how fitting is it that Djokovic dropped from number 1 to number 3, and now we have these 2 guys at the top? Something we could likely see define the next era as it comes, and maybe we're already there. 988 weeks, they were at number 1. Djokovic, 428. That's ridiculous, and we'll see if that's ever matched, that 3 or 4 players from the same era ever get to 988 weeks in number 1. That also doesn't even include the frozen pandemic week, so it could have been, potentially, it could have been like 1,010, but either way, 988 weeks in number 10 is ridiculous. So I did want to mention that as well. Good week for Zverev. It seems like whoever beats Nadal at the Roland Garros is destined to at least make the final. I got my predictions exactly right, by the way, pretty much, for Roland Garros. I made a short about it, but I said semifinals and finals, I got everything right. I said, before the tournament started, I said Alcaraz would beat Zverev in the final, got that. In semis, I said Alcaraz would beat Sinner, got that. I also said that Zverev would beat Casper in 4 sets, getting his revenge from last year, and I got that. Quarterfinals, I got 7 out of 8 quarterfinalists right. The one that I missed, I said Jan-Lennard Struff was going to be the upset pick for the quarters over Medvedev. Medvedev didn't get there. I was right about that, but it wasn't Struff, it was de Minaur, who isn't historically that good on clay, but it was de Minaur who got through instead of Struff. Other than that, I got it perfect, so I'm quite happy about it. We'll see if my perfect streak continues into Wimbledon, which I think is going to be, I said this one was impossible to predict. I think that Wimbledon's going to be even tougher, but anyway, I'm happy with that. So those are some of the things that have been going on that I wanted to talk about as well. One more funny thing that I wanted to bring up as well in regards to the tournament. unfortunate for the lost gen of Tsitsipas, Zverev, Medvedev. I don't know if you could say lost gen. That's maybe more of a term for Nishikori, Raonic, whatever you would call them, Tsitsipas, Zverev, Medvedev. They all lost, Tsitsipas, Zverev, and Medvedev, all lost from a Grand Slam final from up 2 sets to love. Tsitsipas, Zverev, and Medvedev. Tsitsipas to Djokovic, 2021 Roland Garros final. Zverev to Dominic Thiem, 2020 US Open final. Medvedev, obviously, to Rafa, 2022 Australian Open final. Medvedev and Tsitsipas to Rafa and Novak. Zverev to Thiem, who's also 30-something. He's still... But now these guys are losing from up 2 sets to love and 2 sets to 1 to Sinner and Alcaraz. Medvedev losing from up 2 sets to love against Yannick in Australia. And now Zverev losing from up 2 sets to 1 against Alcaraz in the French. So... anyway, it's unfortunate for these guys who keep getting so close in these finals, and now this generation, this new generation, the next gen or whatever, Sinner and Alcaraz they're the guys that are just now going to take over, I guess. I feel bad. I mean, just a moment of silence for all these guys, man. The 90s generation, a moment of silence for the 90s generation, because Carlos Alcaraz has now more Grand Slams than any human who was born in the 90s. Carlos Alcaraz, 21-year-old man, has more Grand Slams than any player that was born in the 90s, which is so crazy to me. It's also hit me more than anything that Alcaraz now has the same number of Grand Slams as Murray and Wawrinka, which kind of just shows it's a different time. I mean, Murray should have more than 3 slams. There's not even that big of an asterisk there outside of maybe the hip injury, but I mean, just the era that he played in. I mean, it's crazy he only won 3, but anyway, that is the stat as it is. So, did want to mention that. Some of my favorite matches of the clay court swing before we move on to the grass. Some of my favorite matches were Jari versus Tsitsipas in Rome. I thought was an incredible match. And then on the WTA side, had some absolutely incredible matches. Osaka Swiatek was phenomenal earlier in Roland Garros, and also Swiatek versus Sabalenka in Madrid. So just speaking of Iga Swiatek, by the way, if we're combining Alcaraz and Swiatek's results, which it's always a little bit. Some people don't really like combining the WTA and ATP results in this way, but just to show more than anything how strong these two kind of young greats are in the moments that matter the most in the sport. Here are some of the stats if you combine these two together so far in their careers at 21, 23 years old. They are 24-3 in finals of big tournaments, Swiatek and Alcaraz, which is, that number speaks for itself. They are 8-0 in slam finals. They are 36-8 in finals. 22-4 for Iga, 14-4 for Carlos. So, just some stats that I kind of found that I want to mention as well. And those are some of the things I want to talk about. We have the grass court swing started up. We've got tournaments in Sertogenbosch in the Netherlands, which is started up, and we've also got tournaments in Stuttgart. We've got tournaments in Halle, Queens coming up. There's a lot of good tournaments coming up, so. Very excited for the grass court swing. It's my favorite season of tennis. It's my favorite swing of tennis. I love what the grass brings. It brings out a whole very relevant, important part of the men's game that might even be missing a little bit now. And grass is so good to accentuate that out. We saw with Djokovic Alcaraz last year. It can create some great matches. Also Rublev Bublik at Wimbledon, which is fantastic. Swiatek Bencic, Azarenka Svitolina. Jabeur versus Sabalenka. There's so many good matches last year, so hoping for the same things this year. And let's not slow things down. It's going to be great. Coming up to the grass court swing, I'll be back with more videos. Please, guys, don't forget to subscribe to Anthony's Tennis Hub if you are new. Please share around the podcast. I'm trying to get this thing growing. And please don't forget to like as well. And thanks to everybody for joining in. There's going to be more stuff coming on this channel. And appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys at the next one.